Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking Sega Saturn, and I'm going to give you a list of games I recommend you buy in order to start your collection. If you see some of the prices out there for Saturn games, it can be quite daunting and you might not know where to start, they're so expensive. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of 10 or 11 games that I think are affordable, but still worthy enough of starting your collection with. Now I'm not going to take the easy option and give you a list of football or soccer games or golf games. There's a ton of them out there that are pretty cheap, you know, under £5. I will, however, start with a couple of racing games because after all, the philosophy and the selling point of the Saturn was to bring arcade games home, and racing games are a great place to start in order to showcase that. And those two games I'm talking about are Sega Rally and Daytona USA. First of all, I'll show you Sega Rally. So here we have the intro for Sega Rally, and it's clear to see from the offset that it's such a big step up in terms of graphics from the 16-bit era.
Sega Rally Championship.
It's a great arcade feel, just as Sega intended. Now on this game there's 4 tracks, you can race up to 14 opponents. It's a 1 or 2 player game of course, but sadly there's only 4 cars to choose from, 2 of which are automatic, 2 of which are manual. But it's still great fun all the same, and the beauty is you shouldn't need to spend more than £5 for this on eBay. And now let's look at Daytona. I actually favour this one over Sega Rally. Perhaps that's because I love Florida so much, I'm not sure, but let's have a look. Now I love the audio on Daytona, so let's just take a few seconds to appreciate that first. Now believe it or not, this was actually a launch title in the West for the Sega Saturn, and you know, it's older than Sega Rally itself. You'll see here that you can race against up to 39 other cars, although disappointingly there's only 3 tracks to choose from, one of which is a beginner, 1 intermediate and 1 advanced. There was however a later version of the game released for the Saturn called Championship Circuit Edition, which included 2 additional tracks and allowed a choice of 8 different NASCAR style cars. For this original though, you shouldn't expect to pay more than £10. Right, so next up we have 3 games in one, and that is Hard Trilogy. As you'd expect, the game is based on the first 3 Die Hard films, with each film having its own section of the game. The first of these is a 3D style run and gun shooter, set in Nakatomi Plaza, where the object is to shoot terrorists and rescue hostages. The second part of the game, Die Harder, is set in Dulles Airport, and is a classic arcade style on-rails shooter. Part 3, meanwhile, back with a vengeance, sees you taking various joyrides, open world style, not too similar to the likes of Grand Theft Auto and Crazy Taxi. Somewhat surprisingly, Die Hard Trilogy is one of the cheapest games on the system. In fact, you shouldn't ever have to pay more than £7 or £8 for it. I'd also recommend another Die Hard Saturn game, Die Hard Arcade, although that is a bit more pricey than Trilogy. Okay, so we're changing the genre to strategy now, and for that we have Command and Conquer. Obviously the Command and Conquer series is better known on the PC, a format that's more suitable for strategy and simulation games, but this is still a decent offering for a console, and you should be able to pick it up for around £6 or £7 on eBay. Now what I love about this game is it comes with 2 discs. One of these is if you want to play as the Global Defence, and the other is if you want to play as the Brotherhood of Nod, which is a secretive terrorist organisation. Now as you'd expect from a Command and Conquer game, you must build a base, manage resources and weapons, battle it out with the enemy for global supremacy. Across the 2 discs there's a total of 28 missions, so you're sure to get your value for money with this game, particularly as the later missions aren't easy at all. If you're into your strategy games and you have the budget, I'd also recommend Warcraft 2, which you could probably get for around £25 nowadays. It's about time we looked at a platform game, and I'm going to show you Rayman. Most platform game developers by now were experimenting in 3D, but Ubisoft however chose to stick with the more conventional 2D, or perhaps you could call it 2.5D at a push, and therefore as a result, the game combined beautiful smooth sprites as well as backgrounds. And as with many multi-platform games, this Saturn version I think looks far better than that on the PlayStation or the Atari Jaguar. In fact, this version boasts an incredible 65,000 colours across its whopping 60 levels. It's a game for all ages, and its price tag of around £15 makes it a sound investment. Okay, next up is actually another movie trilogy, and that is Alien Trilogy. Okay, so Alien Trilogy, unlike Die Hard Trilogy, is just one long game, rather than being split into 3 sections, one for each film. There is in fact a whopping 30 levels, with 3 Queen alien bosses along the way. As you can see from the graphics here, it's a 3D first-person shooter, not too dissimilar from the likes of Doom before it. And when Acclaim originally announced the game in 1994, they revealed it would be the first game to use motion capture technology in 3D. And playing as Ellen Ripley, you follow a series of missions throughout the game that are loosely based on the 3 films, albeit solely based on LV-426. Along the way you'll have to blast face tuggers, chest bursters, dog aliens and adult aliens all from the movies, and you'll even hear audio samples from the movies themselves. Now as for costing, I've seen this game sell for between £4 and £15 in recent times, so if you can, try and be patient and hold out for a bargain on eBay. Okay, so we're moving back into the platform games genre now, and we're going to have a look at Bug. So Bug, unlike Rayman, is a 3D platformer. And with the lack of any Sonic game on release of the Saturn, or indeed in its lifespan at all in terms of an exclusive Sonic platform game, Bug was considered somewhat of a mascot himself for the platform. The game follows the usual pattern of 3 different levels set in 6 different worlds, each culminating in a boss fight at the end. An expensive sequel, Bug 2, that's TOO, was later released, but this original will only set you back between £15 and £20. Right, next up, it's one of the most famous games of all time, arguably, and that is Tomb Raider.
What's a man gotta do to get that kind of...
You'd associate Tomb Raider more with the PlayStation, and possibly even the PC, but the Saturn version holds up as good as those two pretty much. Sure, the graphics look extremely dated nowadays, but the hours of gameplay this game will give you will certainly detract from that. And at under a fiver, you really can't go wrong with this. I'm sure every gamer knows the plot of this game. Playing as Lara Croft, you must run, climb and swim your way through tombs in order to find pieces of an ancient artefact. Interestingly, there are differences between the PAL and NTSC versions of this game. And this is because in the PAL region, Sega of Europe wanted to release the game before it came out on the PC and PlayStation. And as a result, music isn't quite up to scratch and there are some bugs in the game. But if you can overlook those issues, you'll have no problem with this game at all. Okay, so next we have the Team 17 classic, that is Worms. Now Worms is perhaps best known for its versions on the PC and Amiga, but in the mid-90s it was released on pretty much every platform going, and this Saturn port is certainly one of the best, and it'll set you back less than £15. There's a wide range of options when playing Worms. You can either play against the computer, or you can have up to 4 players playing against each other at once. The game comes with some teams preloaded, and here you'll see I'm playing as the Beatles against Take That. But the beauty is you can rename each team name and each team player to make it more fun. You know, you can include your friends or whoever you fancy. Not only that, you can play against your opponent or opponents in a one-off game or in a league campaign that can take some time. I think I paid £12 for this game a couple of years ago, but it's well worth every penny when you consider that back in the day the Mega Drive version alone was £45. It's an absolute bargain. Hours of fun too. What made Worms great was the choice of weapons. Not only the standard ones such as the cluster bombs, airstrikes, grenades, etc., but also others that were found in the weapon drops, hilarious ones such as the banana bomb and super sheep, as well as weapons as other tools you can use as part of your turn such as the pneumatic drill, a ladder, or even teleportation to move your position on the landscape. Right, so next on the list we're going to look at Soviet Strike. Now if you grew up with the Mega Drive or Genesis like I did, chances are you played one of the Strike games before. Jungle Strike, Desert Strike and Urban Strike. Soviet Strike, however, was the last Strike game released on any Sega system. As you can expect, this game is set in the early 90s just after the USSR's collapse, and you're tasked by the US military to complete a series of missions to prevent the breakout of nuclear war. Graphically, you can see that this is a clear step up from the 3 games on the Mega Drive, all of which look very similar. These 3D graphics here on Soviet Strike though look so much better. The digitised terrain and artillery were some of the best graphics for the time. Sure, it will set you back more money than any other game in this video, but you'll never have to pay more than £20 for this on eBay, which represents great value for money. Okay, so last up, but by certainly no means least, we have Virtua Cop 2.
Virtua Cop 2.
Now I couldn't let a Saturn game pass without including one of the Virtua games, but to be honest, I'm really not a fan of Virtua Racing or Virtua Fighter. I've never liked the polygon graphics, particularly in the former. Now this game has one of the best arcade feels on the system. Now obviously it'd be beneficial to play the game with the Saturn light gun over a standard controller, but I'm using the standard controller here and it still works fine. I must warn you, of course, though, that the light gun isn't compatible with modern TVs. You'll need an old-fashioned CRT TV, as the game was intended to be played on back in the 90s. As for pricing, I've seen the game go for anything between £5 and £20 on eBay in recent years, so hold out for a bargain if you can. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you've seen something here that you like and that you'll invest in. After all, the Saturn is a great platform to collect for. Well, if you've got this far, I appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.